Hey everybody, this is episode 6 of Brain Power. I'm your host, Bowen. Welcome back. Today joining me are Kent and Justin from coincap to talk about their Builder Subnet in the Morpheus network ecosystem. This is really exciting. I look forward to highlighting tons and tons of builders and different things being developed in the Morpheus ecosystem into the future. And thank you to these guys for being the first. If you have a registered subnet and are building something using Morpheus, get in touch with me. I'd love to talk to you about it. Now, without further ado, I give you Kent and Justin with coincap.
I'm trying to free your mind, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.
You're listening to Brain Power.
Justin and Kent, thank you for joining Brain Power.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. This is episode 6, and it is actually the first guest episode from a builder, which is awesome. Monumental for the show, so I very much appreciate it, and I plan on having many more on. But I wanted to highlight coincap because on the Arbitrum side of things within the Morpheus ecosystem, you are currently the most staked to builder, and I believe you're in the top 10 as well on the base side of things. And if we were to, average it out across all of the sides, number 2 behind Venice, who's obviously a juggernaut at this point, so far in these early stages. I also happen to know that coincap's been around for a long time. I saw, I was doing a little bit of research just on coincap, and I want to hear it from you guys, but I found a video on YouTube from almost 10 years ago, which in crypto world is 1,000 years ago.
A century ago. That's
exactly.
That's like when dinosaurs roamed the earth in crypto, exactly. So can you guys tell me just the story of coincap and just kind of like a background for everybody listening?
Yeah, coincap started its existence as a Shapeshift product. It lived under the Shapeshift umbrella for several years. I think going back all the way to 2014, which really is so much changed since then. And it was just one of many services in the Shapeshift suite of things you could do. It was really kind of not necessarily an autopilot, but it was something that wasn't core to Shapeshift's functionality. If I wind up saying we, it's because I was working at Shapeshift as head of R&D for a while.
Got it.
Before he turned into a DAO. But really, the fundamental thing initially was sort of just inspired by similar sites, like, hey, a place where you can get reliable price data, and also especially with an API that's really serving the needs of people that want a lot of data, whether it's high frequency traders or other users of a lot of crypto price data. So fast forward to say last year, and there's still this existing site, an existing service with a good amount of API users. But as some of us that used to be in the Shapeshift orbit, and really still are looking at this, there was kind of a realization that coincap could actually really fit nicely and elegantly into this burgeoning AI ecosystem. That in general, there's this nice thing happening, but Morpheus, more than anybody, that particular community, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but really is doing a good job of pushing it forward. In mid-January, we launched a new functionality whereby you could take our existing API and pay for it by staking your Morpheus tokens. So this sort of culminated kind of a long or multi-month journey kind of towards that, and also working in tandem with a lot of people working on the Morpheus platform itself, kind of getting a better understanding of what Morpheus needs and how we can help. Because more than anything, we collectively, and I say coincap as a team, myself and Justin and our other co-founder, John, very, very committed to the spirit of decentralized AI. It really reminds us so much of what makes crypto great. Crypto is grown by leaps and bounds, and it's just going to get crazier and more fun and more interesting. But similar to the ability to transact financial wealth, digital assets in a decentralized fashion, it's just so crucial that we get decentralized AI right. and that spirit of open source, permissionless innovation is really at the heart of what we do. It's why we get up every morning, is to just do our part to push this forward. And finding a way to integrate into the Morpheus ecosystem has really been a crucial part of that.
So one thing that I noticed, so like you just said, you currently have an active builder where you can stake to it and have different basically rewards or like access to coincap for like different staking tiers. Can you talk to those a little bit? I know that's kind of the big thing that people in the community ask me about and other members about constantly is what am I getting? And you guys have a thing, which is amazing. Everyone else is in earlier stages.
Yeah, so we offer essentially 5 different tiers of the API, right? There's a free version that anyone can use as sort of a demo, and then 4 different paid versions as well. Um, each of those paid versions you get access to by staking a different amount of more tokens to us on as our builder on either Arbitrum or Base, right? So you can stake on one or both. And then in addition to different levels of API access, you'll also earn a flat 20% return on any more that you stake to us too. So even if you're not necessarily interested in using the API right now, there's still a benefit to staking to us. And
Wait, I'm sorry,
also,
say that again. You said it's 20% more APY as well, back to the
yep,
staker.
yep,
Okay,
exactly. So
awesome.
yeah, anyone that stakes any amount of more will also get a 20% APY back. Um, And then we also offer coincap points, which we haven't announced anything that uses coincap points yet, but lots of cool opportunities for those in the future also.
I was going to ask about that. I was reading through the tiers and I did notice the points that you guys squeeze those in at the bottom, which is something that I'm going to be doing something similar with the Brainpower subnet that I've spun up as well. And so yeah, that's awesome that you guys are continuing to do that. One thing that I think is so interesting and uh, I think feels obvious to the people working on this stuff, but maybe not as obvious to people who are not as like in the weeds every single day. But having something like an API stream to data, particularly price data, that in theory can be perpetual if you have enough more stake to it. Someone's going to build, and we know a ton of people are working on different versions of trading agents effectively, but those agents need to have price data from somewhere. And so you could
Mhm.
make sure that yours perpetually has access to that data via your API, basically. And what I think is going to happen is there's going to be agents who are like registering themselves as builders and then attract more stake, to you from an agent, maybe not even a person, which I think is really
Yeah.
cool.
Yep. Yeah. So I think there's tons of opportunity for growth and evolution, both with the CoinCap API, but also sort of the Morpheus ecosystem as it grows. So we're really excited to have the opportunity to be a tool for different agents that may need access to price or market data. We were actually, using the Venice API, started building our own sort of little chatbot thing as an experiment internally, and realized that chatbots and AI agents in general, consume data very differently than, say, like a web application does, right? So we actually modified our API in a couple different ways as we were sort of experimenting just with integrating with our own chatbot in order to help the AI sort of see the data that it wants to a little bit easier, which was surprisingly difficult trying to use just a sort of standard like REST API or even a WebSocket. So.
Mm. Can you speak a little bit more to that? So prior to, I would imagine, the past couple years, was the CoinCap client base predominantly institutions who are looking for like institutional solutions to data feeds?
Um, it's tough to say 100%, but yeah, for the most part, yes. It was like institutions or smaller projects. I think a lot of like small, individual projects or things like that that are looking for data that they can get at, much lower rate than some of our competitors, right? Which have I think priced themselves out of some like newer projects. So.
Just to add a
Got
little
it.
bit more, Bowen, on the chat agent stuff. This precisely is one of the reasons we're so excited about building in the community. And the chat agent that we've built, kind of, which plugs into the Venice API by virtue of the fact that we're staking Venice tokens. It's just like a really exciting example, I think, of the modularity that we're going to see in this space. Is like, you have this cool emergent community, which, by the way, like I've been involved in like different communities from early stages in crypto, and this reminds me so much of just the early days of say Ethereum. Like there's such an earnest and genuine desire to build. People are very excited about the mission and a great sense of collaboration. Um, but what we're really aiming to do here is just as time goes by, as we iterate on different things, uh, release services to the community that are useful, but also really are sort of dog fooding. This is really utilizing the resources of the collective ecosystem. So, like, you can actually use the chat agent right now if you're a Morpheus staker. I believe at any tier, you can access our chat agent in a more typical interface. And then lately, what's gotten a lot of traction is our coincap bot or CC bot. This has been kind of a big hit in the Venice Markets channel. We just got added to, I think, Price Talk on the Morpheus channel, and
Yep, I was going to say in the Price Talk channel in the
yeah,
Morpheus Discord as well. Yeah, I've been playing around with it. It's fun.
yeah, cool. And it's like it's so interesting to see the impact of bringing in an actual powerful API, because before we were kind of like feeding our own data into some LLMs, kind of the RAG approach if you want to get technical, and but without Venice. And it's like, okay, you can query our price data, but augmenting it with what Venice has is this fabulous, like, giant knowledge base and ability to reason. Hence, you see like people can ask more detailed and nuanced questions in there. And I think this really prefigures where CoinCap could be headed, at least in some respect, to really meeting the needs of people who want to do that. And of course, the end goal is like, hey, I'm going to put my wealth, my digital wealth, into a contract, and it's going to trade for me. That's pretty far out, but it's coming for sure.
Yeah, well, and you guys are one of the like building blocks of the tech stack to allow that to happen. I think, which is so cool. I have a
Yep.
question just about data aggregation. I mean, price data aggregation in crypto. Like, so because CoinCap's been in this space, I was going to say for so long, and I don't mean that like in a condescending way. I just like, again, like in crypto terms, 10 years is a really long time. I was looking back at the video I referenced earlier, and in like the commercial you did, it does a quick like showing of a screen of some of the assets, and it's like Bitcoin, Litecoin, EOS, like some of those early,
Mhm.
2016, 2017 ICO days. How has the landscape changed for what data you scrape and pull from? Because you can also, like, the flip side of that. So at the time, I remember when there were like 1,000 tokens, that seemed like a billion tokens. And now you can go on Dex Screener or something on like Solana or some other Base or some of these other ecosystems, and there's literally millions of tokens and new ones launching by the hour, probably by
Mhm.
the minute. So how do you guys decide like what gets aggregated and like where that gets pulled from? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so it's a sort of a tricky decision to make, right? We we want to support and we want to display and aggregate, ingest as much data as we can and as much data as makes sense, right? We want to be um, useful for everyone. So the goal would be that anyone can hop onto CoinCap or ask the CoinCap bot a question about their asset, and it will know it'll know the answer to that question regardless of what it is. But like you said, there's so many new projects and so many new coins and things like that coming out. I think every minute is accurate. That it's hard to keep up with, right? So um, based on the activity of the project itself and its community and just generally like how much demand we notice as we're in other projects discords and things like that, helps us decide like what assets we want to add and which ones we wait on, right? Because there's a limited number of cycles that everyone has in a week, right? So and they will people are making tokens way faster than we can add them.
Right. Yeah. Or then it even makes sense too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yep.
that's something I was always curious about, just as somebody like who specifically works in data revolving around number of tokens or just tokens in general, and like it moves so much faster than anything else. I mean, imagine if the stock market had an ICO every 2 seconds. Or IPO rather. Wow, I'm really crypto brain. But yeah, like that would be ridiculous. There's just no way. No, that's so interesting. Can you speak a little bit to, so I know with Venice, they just did their token drop and you can stake your VVV tokens to the VCU. And I heard Eric say on a call that you can actually offload your API access, like if you wanted to. Like there's probably going to be a
Hmm.
mechanism to do that. Are you guys thinking about doing something similar with coincap? Like could I effectively sell my API access for additional yield or some other type of benefit if I wasn't going to use it but wanted to stake to you guys?
We don't currently have that functionality, but we're certainly looking at what, other people are doing in the space and the kind of tokenization essentially of resources, like what VCU is doing is certainly like very interesting. Um, Anytime you have tokenization, it just is so cool to me because it's, you can quantify things, perhaps, secondary markets rise up around it. And that's another thing that we're very supportive of with Morpheus in general is this basic notion of, let the free market dictate as much as possible and just leave it up to the invisible hand. The VCU credits are a good example of that, and also really leveraging like one of my favorite aspects of blockchain technology, which is the transparency of it. These are things that can be quantified on chain, and yeah, we haven't necessarily thought about that aspect in super deep detail yet, but it's also something that we're keeping an eye on.
Hmm.
Okay. What about like use cases for the API? Is there anything you would love to see someone build with the CoinCap API? Or maybe even just something you are aware of that someone's building?
That's a great question. Um, I'm really excited about our API. Again, being used for like trading bots and some of these like automated smart agents that Morpheus is really spearheading. So I would honestly love to see a bunch of new bots come out that are using our data. Like Kent mentioned earlier, we have one. It's very young. It's still just a little baby. Um, but but it's really exciting to see, people play with that. And um, I'd love to see where the community sort of evolves that idea going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a future where if we do really start tokenizing everything, like we start seeing equities tokenized, treasuries, bonds, real estate, whatever it is, you could have a financial advisor who's using a CoinCap API to balance all of your finances. Like I could see a future where that's a reality. I don't know how far away that is. It's funny because I want to say 2 years and that means 10. And if I say 10 years, that means, next year. So it's so hard to know with how fast everything moves. But I could really see a future where that's just the norm.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for, like you said, rebalancing, some, forecasting and doing some predictions potentially. Although I want to be very careful about uh, how much we do that, right? Because AIs in general can confuse themselves just like humans can. But yeah, forecasting, market analysis that even a team of humans could not accomplish, an AI will be able to do in, a couple minutes, right? Just the sheer amount of data that it can ingest and analyze. So yeah, tons of potential there.
Absolutely. And can you guys speak to as well? I know you'd mentioned briefly, Kent, that like the Morpheus community specifically right now reminds you of the early Ethereum days. I've heard other people say this as well, which is very exciting because Ethereum was the first crypto thing I became aware of. I was in college at the time and had no money and was living off student loans. And so I was basically like loosely following it. This would have been 2016. Um, and from knowing what I know now about what was happening then, I would have like done anything to be more involved in that building that was taking place. And now hearing that that's a similar type of energy that's happening in this DAI space is great. So can you speak to that a little bit for maybe people who are like first cyclers when it comes to this like okay, let me take a step back. Bitcoin gave us decentralized money. Ethereum gave us decentralized internet and application, and now we're building decentralized AI tools. So it's like the next category of thing that this technology does.
Yeah, I think, Bowen, there's a certain excitement and like really cool energy when you're in the earlier stages of something like that. It applied to Bitcoin, it applied to Ethereum, and now with this, I think it's like when I think back on the earlier days of Ethereum, it was sort of like everybody's gathered around this idea of like a decentralized sort of computer that anybody can access, and really basically taking everything that made Bitcoin really cool, but adding so many more use cases, from tokenizing any sort of asset to DAOs, to all these to stable coins. These are all use cases even before Ethereum existed that have worked out very well. At the same time, as the ETH community has grown up, you kind of changed from a sort of, I guess it's gotten a lot busier, and it used to be more of a meritocracy of ideas where a lot of stuff just happened on the Ethereum subreddit, and it was this great community vibe, and really ideas are what mattered. These days it's very much like, if you're not a well-recognized influencer in the space, it's hard to make your ideas known. It's also incredibly complex, and it still is decentralized, which is great to see, but there's a lot going on, and it's just a very different beast. Whereas at Morpheus, you have this like really, just every time you jump in the Discord, there's something cool going on. It seems to attract the right kind of people. Like, in other words, people seem to be self-selecting because they're really interested in this idea of kind of taking AI, which is in itself is cool, even centralized AI, but really embracing a decentralized and permissionless version of it, and doing that in a way that it's not just one project, but a whole ecosystem. There's also definitely, anecdotally at least, there seems to be a lot much lower hype and ego, and like focus on number go up. Everybody just wants to build things, and over time the ecosystem certainly will grow. And not to say that the profit motive is bad. That's great. That's partially why all of us are here for sure. But like it's kind of this really very I think pure, just ethos driven thing that is like such a good fit for those of us from just a crypto background.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One, I think too, the connection of AI and crypto, which historically have been on very opposite sides of the aisle. Like, my understanding, and this is from talking to people like David and people who were in cryptography in the early 2000s, and maybe even some cases in the 90s, AI people did not like cryptocurrency people. Like, it was viewed as this like totally separate thing. Like, those are the degenerates, those are the money people. We're building the real tech. And what I think is so ironic is crypto's had this endless search for like product market fit, and this is the perfect product market fit. And I tell people all the time, what like crypto money to an AI is native money. Like, something built on code to something also built on code is native to itself. And so I think it's so interesting that they've kind of now come together. I also, and this is just speaking for myself anecdotally, I am afraid of what a future looks like if we don't have decentralized AI. Like, I genuinely think it's not just a cool thing to be built, it's actually necessary that somebody builds it. And so when I first found out about Morpheus, it was kind of like, oh, I could be part of this, even if it's a small part, whatever, great. And like, anybody can just be part of it. It's amazing.
If we ever wind up with Skynet, at least we can say we did our part, man. At least we can try.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, I can't name a movie where the Skynet figure is not centralized AI. It's always, Evil Corp XYZ who runs the thing. It's never like decentralized network XYZ. So if anything, we'll put up a fight, right? And I think that's so interesting. A question I did have. So with coincap historically being tied in with Shapeshift, Shapeshift, to my knowledge, was the first major company to do like a DAO. I don't know what to call it, like a dissolvement. Basically, the company went from totally private to open source. Right, kind of at the top. Was that correct? I think that was in 2018 or 19. Correct me if I'm wrong.
2021, I think. Right?
Oh, okay. It was more recent than I thought. Okay, 2021. Yeah. Well, now coincap, which again, like, used to be a subsidiary and now is its own business, is, in my eyes, one of the first companies to say, okay, we're going to do this AI thing, but now we're going to do the distributed version of it before everyone else can. Venice being the other one, which also kind of has the Shapeshift tie-in, of course. Has there been any pushback? Like, were there lawyers that you guys had to talk to that were like, hey, I don't know?
We try our best to avoid those conversations as much as we can. So
Sure.
maybe one will come up soon. But not really so far, right? It's CoinCap is a pretty small team right now. It's just a couple people that saw a really cool product and wanted to sort of continue helping to maintain it, and also, a really great opportunity with another awesome community in sort of Morpheus in general and the yeah, decentralized like AI uh, movement, right? So. Um, no, we're not really beholden to many people like that at the moment, although certainly as it grows, that's a risk, right? We will
Yeah,
deal
it's
with it as
just
it comes.
so gray. I mean,
Uh-huh.
like I don't think you're doing anything wrong, but it's gray, just in general, which tends to be the story of all of this stuff.
Yeah, one thing that's really nice from a timing perspective for us, and certainly like the broader DAI community, is just the regulatory changes that are coming. Having built in
Mm.
this space for many years, including I was also at the DAO for a couple of years doing tokenomics.
Wait, like the
Shapeshift DAO.
DAO?
I'm sorry, not the. I should say Shapeshift DAO.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you
Very
meant like
different
the
things.
DAO. Okay.
Boy, would I have some
Shapeshift's
stories
out
with that.
still. Yeah, I was gonna say Shapeshift still exists, just for the record. The
Yep.
DAO, and it's still flourishing. The DAO is not. Okay, sorry.
Exactly. But yeah, having built in the space, it's
Mhm.
just kind of seeing where things are headed, and yeah, it's like finding new ways to really kind of embrace all this, like in these emergent properties or where things are headed. I think you identified one of the coolest aspects of what we're trying to do in terms of just like one analogy might almost be like basically kind of serving as a chain link for and the analogy would be sort of, they're kind of a fundamental building block from an Oracle perspective, driving smart contracts and dApps. There's certainly a future where we are we're kind of providing the same service from a price feed perspective, not necessarily Oracle like per se, but yeah, it's like and it's so early on. You can see the contours of where things are headed. I think certainly we're going to see this Cambrian explosion of everything will be tokenized, and then AIs themselves will use tokens just to communicate to one another. So there might be a point where it's like it's almost just overwhelming. You need AI itself to sort through all this data, basically just the same way the internet itself has produced insane data, insane amounts of data. It'll be
Right.
tokenized data that without tooling will be super hard to kind of even figure out what's going on.
Totally. Well, and I think that'll kind
Mhm.
of self take care of the problem I brought up earlier too, of just the sheer number of tokens and just number of things to look at. You could have an agent that's job is to filter the noise, basically, and it can just do it at such a more efficient level than you or I or really any person could. Um, and I know I think it's gonna get, however like fast and crazy we think it is, I think it's gonna be faster than that. Which I
Mhm.
try to remind myself constantly, but it's really hard to wrap my head around. Um, and I think just a combination of that. I mean, I was speaking on a Twitter Spaces yesterday, and I was being a little bit hyperbolic, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized maybe I'm not. I think that with something like Morpheus, at some point, nation states' defense budgets will need to have some type of reserve of inference, whether that be something like staked more, staked Venice, something along those lines where they know that they, as a defense mechanism, have an access to X like amount of compute at any given moment in case if they need it. And if it's done on a permissionless decentralized basis and done well, like other nation states, other militaries, whatever it is, won't necessarily know that like we could be using Chinese hardware against their spyware without them realizing it because it's being done on a permissionless basis. And I think that's going to become obvious in hindsight when we start looking at things like increased cyber attacks and like all this crazy stuff that everyone always like thinks of AI and they go straight to it's going to end the world, like it's going to destroy everything. And so having that like permanence of access to inference will become so obvious, I think, in hindsight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that's another reason why it's so important to be able to kind of decentralize this and really focus on the decentralized piece of it as much as possible as early as we can, because I don't want to see a future where it does become, this kind of inference or having access to compute, like you said, becomes such an essential piece for um, security and safety, and also that one person or one group of people has primary control over who gets access to that and who doesn't, right? So
Yeah.
um, it's really important that we make sure that that gets spread across as many different people as possible as early as we can, before one single company or one single nation or person can grab a hold of it.
Well, thank you is really like the biggest thing I have to say. Like as a community member who's also trying to build in this space, I really appreciate, the time and effort that you guys are putting in and shipping a product, being the first or at least one of the very first to market with more utility is awesome. And I think that'll be remembered by many long into we'll be talking another 10 years from now and we'll be like, remember, we were the early guys. Is there anything else that you want to cover for the Morpheus community, kind of just in general, before we wrap it up?
I just want to say, if anybody is interested in taking a closer look at what we're doing, or potentially staking Morpheus to get access to the API and earn Morpheus and coincap points, pro.coincap.io is where you want to visit. If you just want to see the classic price website, that's coincap.io, and we have apps as well, of course. The 20% rewards is that was kind of like a double the initial amount we had set, and kind of to celebrate the launch of Builder rewards in general. Currently, that's slated to end, I believe, on February 15th. We're not sure if that necessarily will be extended. So if you want to lock that in, maybe visit now to start earning that in addition to CoinCap points. Also, we'll be hanging out at the Decentralized AI Days that Morpheus is taking part of at around ETH Denver. That should be really cool. And then also, if you want to play with the CoinCap bot, definitely jump in either like the Venice Discord, into the Markets channel, or Price Talk in Morpheus.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you jumping on.
Yeah. Thanks, Bowen. Thanks for your time.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you again to CoinCap, specifically Kent and Justin, for jumping on Brainpower today. It was really insightful to hear about the things that they are building within their subnet, and hopefully it helps give other people ideas of things they can do within their own subnet. I remind you all again, if you're listening to this and you have a registered subnet within the Morpheus network ecosystem, I would love to talk to you about it. Get in touch with me, let me hear about what you're building, let's tell the community about it, and together we will keep building the future of decentralized AI. Now, this is the point in the video that no content creator likes, but it does really help out. So if you could like this video or subscribe to the channel, that would be very helpful, whether that be on YouTube or whatever your favorite streaming platform is. It goes a long way. And lastly, check out the Brainpower subnet on the Morpheus Builders dashboard, and maybe consider staking some more to it. It very much helps support the channel and also future reward announcements to come. Thank you guys. See you next week.
I'm trying to free your mind, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.
You're listening to Brainpower.